Hi, and welcome to today's video where we will be talking about resource constraints, both financial and people around your organization when doing projects. In this video, I'm going to be covering some basic understanding what resource constraints are, how they impact projects, and how you manage your budget constraints and how you navigate your resource and workforce constraints as well. A few techniques that you could use, of which some are good, some are bad, but they all have a part to play, and some of the potential pitfalls and how to avoid them as part of your resource constraints and manage them throughout your project. So without delay, let's crack on. So the first one is understanding resource constraints. So as a definition, resource constraints refer to the limitation on the availability of quantity of resources like time, money, manpower, equipment that can be used in your project. So some of the definitions and the importance are, you do have a finite nature. So every project operates with a limited set of resources. Your allocation challenges, how do you allocate individuals, your resources to do the right things at the right time is also a challenge. And there's a massive balancing act of resource that you have to make sure that you've got on board, engaged to deliver your project. And again, it helps with your decision making, so you can understand constraints, helps it make it more informed so that you can make better choices, and therefore you can make such good trade-offs to what you can do or what you can't do. So, how they impact project outcomes is pretty much really fundamental, and the key ones are delays. So as we're all aware, project delays are not fun, but it happens. And so you've got insufficient resources that can push the project timeline, which automatically leads to late delivery, or people are away, holiday, or you don't have the budget, etc. within a certain financial year. Budget overruns is a big one, where you have to go, if you run projects, you have to request more money, whether you're customer facing or internal. There's a budget request where you need to do through change and so forth, change control, to get that money in. So you've got to make sure that you can manage that money, or you don't have enough money to deliver that project. So that there's that constraint as well. And that has a major impact on actually delivering the project. Quality is another thing that could have an impact on your project outcome. You sometimes have to take sacrifices on quality to make sure your project gets over the line. That doesn't make the project unsuccessful, but you aren't delivering to the quality standards you may have originally set out to achieve. So the next one is stress and burnout. Overworking humans' resources can lead to team burnout and decreased morale. Within your project, you have to manage that, and you've got to be really good at managing resources to make sure that they're good and are overstretched and are delivering a good high quality standard. And again, the other impact is scope reduction. If we can't deliver it with the resource or the budget, what do we take out of the project to make it deliverable? And I've done that many a time. That happens, and all these changes have a ripple effect, which increase risk, issues, etc. throughout your project and the whole life cycle. So how do you manage budget constraints? So firstly, set yourself clear priorities. Allocate funds to a high impact areas. Make sure that you've understood your budget throughout the project and understood where that's going. Next is, continuously monitoring. Keep a close eye on expenditure. Keep an eye on what you're spending, how you're spending it, and what you're doing. And then, contingency planning. Make sure that you're planning ahead, trying to see what's going on, what the budget is. Keep a track of that. If you have, if you've got a small contingency of resource and budget, that's going to help you fill gaps where you can. Don't overspend too quickly. Use your budget wisely. Next one is, how do you navigate workforce constraints? So basically, your workforce are your people that will deliver this. So first is have a skills inventory. Mapping out the skills available in your team makes you understand who can do what capabilities and at the right time as well. And then that helps to give you optimal allocation, which is another one, assigning the right people at the right task at the right time. Cross-training is another one, training team members with multiple areas to ensure flexibility. So not having one single source of failure, having multiple people with the same skill set that can actually do the job should one be on leave, etc. So that's the areas. And there are, how else would you navigate your constraint? Build that rapport with the people that you're working with, because if they're like you, you will win them over when you need them the most, because you will find situations where you are in trouble and these people will get you out of that. So keep them on side and build that good rapport with those individuals. Next is some techniques for balancing both constraints. Now, some of these you may have heard of, some of you may have not. So critical chain project management, CCPM, which is focusing on resource availability rather than the task order. So when the resource is available, you get the task done. That's not always possible, but sometimes you can do that. And you just look at your project plan saying, actually, we can do A, B, and C before we do E, F, G, etc. to get those done. The other approach is agile resource planning, which we're all aware. Agile is a big thing where your iterative approach to resource management and you just as you go along, which is proven to be very successful and can add considerable value to your project and actually deliver more quickly in smaller increments. Another one is earned value management, which is EVM, which is measures project performance and forecast future challenges. I've never used this myself. I've never seen many organizations use it, so unfortunately I really don't know how beneficial this is, but I do know organizations do use this as a measure to managing their constraints. And the other one is outsourcing. What you can do is outsource to contracting certain tasks to external teams to save on cost and time. Now, that doesn't always necessarily mean you save cost and time, because sometimes it can be more expensive, but it's not always the case. So some of the potential pitfalls and how you can avoid them. So firstly, one is overcommitting. Don't overpromise and underdeliver, which is a big no. You will find that people will soon disengage when you start overpromising and underdelivering, because you are misleading people and you are setting an expectation bar that people cannot deliver. Do not micromanage. Over managing can drain resources. People who you're constantly shadowing, say, why haven't you done this? Trust the people you have and then follow up. Have irregular intervals where you follow up, so it's more like a regular touch point rather than constantly going, have you done this? Have you done that? Etc. And one of the other things you must do is failure to reassess, not revisiting resource plans or on your project, not understanding whether actually can we juggle things around to make things better, or looking slightly forward to say, actually, we need to plan for the XYZ scenarios is really key. Keeping your stakeholders informed is another one, making sure that your stakeholders are fully informed through this. If they don't know what's going on, they can't support you, they can't move things forward and expedite where required. And be careful, make sure you're managing expectations and bringing transparency within your project. Be very clear, be very honest. Whether it's hard being honest, be honest. It's really important. I have found that if you're honest, yes, you might get into trouble or you might get moaned at, but the reality is you can get yourself out of it as long as you plan. Don't just go in with problems, try to find the solution before you go in with the problem. And then again, don't forget to celebrate small wins and keep the morale high within your team. When you've achieved something, tell people they've done good. And the title is project manager. You are management in some respects. So managing your team is key. So other ways you can make sure that you are managing your resources well is embracing technology. So tools like Microsoft Projects, Smartsheet, Trello are all tools that can be used. They help you resource manage, analyze data, make sure that you're doing stuff, keep track of things, all sorts of things, which then give you a holistic view of what's going on. And again, future of AI is coming, and there are multiple tools that will help you there to do this as well. So in summary, resource constraints are pretty much anything that will impact your project, like time, money, manpower, and equipment. Be mindful that you are keeping on top of that. Manage your budget, manage your resources, and use some of the techniques that we went through. Embrace agile, outsourcing, use your CCPM, which is the critical chain project management. Adjust your plan to focus on things that can be done now rather than later, etc. Obviously, if you've got clear dependencies, don't do that. However, also make sure you are engaging and being very open and honest with your teams. Don't overcommit, don't micromanage, and don't forget to reassess your plan as you go along, and also keep your stakeholders engaged. And finally, just make sure you are embracing technology, which is out there, and there's a whole raft of new technology coming from AI, which you can embrace and bring into the fold. I hope that was helpful, and thank you for listening. If you would like to leave any comments, please do so, and thank you again.